Hello, this is Being a Run Leader, a Kidlington Running Club committee training pack, which is aimed at trying to help our members become run leaders for our club. So hello, my name is James Ruddick. I'm one of the Kidlington Running Club committee members, and my job here is to try and help run leaders become trained. First of all, a very big thank you from everybody at the club, because without people like yourself volunteering and helping out, organising and leading these runs, obviously there wouldn't be a club. So thank you very much, and I hope that you find this particular video helpful in helping you organise our training sessions and making sure that we can all have fun, well organised and safe runs. I hope that throughout this video you'll see what we've put together to try and help achieve that, and if we haven't answered any of your questions, which I'm hoping we will have answered all of them by the end of this, then please let us know by dropping us an email. So preparing for the run, as a run leader there are several things that you need to do. The first one is to stay up to date. So one of the things that the club does is it produces a health and safety document, but we also have a new COVID safeguarding policy, and we have been risk assessing our club training sessions as well. And it's really important that you read those documents quite thoroughly so that you're aware of what the potential risks are and how we're aiming to try and help our runners from, to avoid those risks. The next thing is the route. So all the routes should have been pre-run, and I'm sure you will have run them before, and we will have route assessed them as well. They will be sent out to runners, so there's a schedule of runs, and just before that everybody in the club will have a link to the route. Some people like to add them to their mobile phones or to their devices, watches and so on, so that they can be told which way to run. We hope that if you've managed to read the route assessment, that you'll be aware of the different kind of issues that can be faced, like the mobile phone black spots, where the nearest defibrillators are, and so on. And we'd like you to try and consider how you'd respond in the event of an emergency. So think when you've got the route assessment out in front of you, think about what would happen if X, Y, or Z happened and how you might respond. It's quite useful kind of role playing those sorts of things. Also, the phone, it's important that to prepare for the run that you download something called the What 3 Words app. It's a really clever app that helps the emergency services find any space in the world, any 3 metre by 3 metre space. So having the app is really helpful because you can tell the emergency services that you're at, and there'll be 3 random words. So it might be bat, fun, fly. And that will have a specific area that is related to where you are. Also, make sure that you've got enough battery and that your phone's working, and have the contact for your back runner. We'll also give you a committee member telephone number too in case you need us. So you've done those 3 precursors, and now the pre-run check or setup. It's important to go through the COVID reminders in your own head, so make sure that runners stay 2 meters apart. Put the hand sanitizer out and remind runners to wash their hands when they arrive, and ask runners to meet at the front of the building and not inside. These, of course, are bound to change soon, and as they do, we'll keep you updated. Also, final checks, so there are things to consider when you're checking. They include the weather, light conditions on the route, whether where the first aid kit is, so it's worth just making sure you know where that is, and that the facilities are open as well. So it's worth opening the door and saying hello to whoever's on duty. Also brief the back marker, so let them know that nobody should be left behind, how to contact you if there's a problem, and give them your phone number. It would also be useful if you could help encourage them to run a brief warm down and stretch at the end. One of the things that we're trying to do is add a pre-session talk to the runs. So we're hoping that run leaders don't mind doing this. A little example here of Ian Wakefield addressing the run that he was leading on that particular day. And it's something that Parkrun do really well. Just an introduction to the run and what to expect. So there are a few different parts to the pre-session talk. What I'm hoping will happen is as people arrive, you might encourage the runners to go for a little 5-minute jog. That way you've got a little bit of time for people to catch up if they're running a few minutes late. Once they've been for their jog and during your talk, I'm hoping that they might stretch too, so do please ask them to do that before you'll head out on your run. So the first thing to do is to welcome the runners. So this might offer you an opportunity to talk about some of the news from the club and to say hello to people that you've not seen for a while and to find out how people did in different competitions. The next thing to do is to ask how are you? Is there anybody out there who has any particular injuries or health issues, and could they please let you know if they do? That way you can keep an eye on anybody who might not be feeling on top form. You can also describe the route and highlight the possible hazards. So there may well be people there who've forgotten the route, or there may be people who have never been on it before. So it's important to just run through where the route goes and what might be on the route. So if you're talking about Spring Hill, it may be the cows in the field, it may be crossing the Woodstock Road. There may be certain things that you want to talk about for each particular route, and they are on the route assessment, so it should be quite clear. Also, with groups as they get quite big, it's nice to regroup. So there may be particular places that you've decided would be useful to regroup at. So it might be at the top, at a junction, it might be maybe anywhere particularly. But it's the idea that having run backs and regrouping is a nice process to keep the community of runners together. If that's something you choose to do highlight it in the pre-session talk. The back runner also needs to be nominated and visible to everybody so that people are aware of who is at the back, and make sure that you've got each other's mobile number as a double check. Then it's important to remind everybody about the current coronavirus situation. So I like this phrase, be a distance runner, so keep your social distance. Personal hygiene. Most people will know this, particularly after we restate the fact several times, but sanitizing hands, trying to avoid touching your face, which of course is almost impossible when someone tells you to do that, and avoid spitting, which is something that most of our runners avoid doing anyway. It's also important to be aware of pedestrians, so particularly at this time there'll be people who look particularly scared of a group of runners, so make everyone in the group being aware of pedestrians, and don't hang around at the end of the run. So remind people that it's important not to hang about for longer than necessary. So maybe that the last couple of minutes they just slow the pace down in order to warm down, and then they stretch in socially distanced group before they leave. Also, it would be useful if you could ask if there are any first aiders. That way it will help you identify, and for people to identify, who the first aiders are in the group. We are working on a list of first aiders that you'll have a copy of too. Key people so are the back runner particularly, and if you have a second group, maybe you'll need a group leader in that pack and a back runner in that pack as well, and you'll need all those people's telephone numbers, but do identify them in the pre-session talk. Finally, it's useful to add a little reminder that if anyone needs to cut the run short or drop out, let someone know. So one of the worst things is if somebody just disappears and we don't know what happened to them. We really need to know so that we can count all our runners out and all back in again. So at Stratfield Break, there are these two particular forms that you'll have in a lovely little black clipboard. If you can fill in the participation registration form really quickly at the beginning of your talk. So just circle which session it is, give me the date and your name, and then just put in people's names. You only need the contact number and notes if the person hasn't been isn't a current member, so maybe a new member who's arrived or somebody coming back, for instance. But if there's been any change, of course, feel free to put the contact numbers in there as well. The second piece of paper there is the kind of pre-session briefing note. So I've put all this down so that you can, so it makes the whole process easier and smoother. And also I think if you can follow this particular structure, and the more of us who do, the more there'll be continuity in the way that we operate our runs, and people will feel more assured by the process. So just a few other considerations for when you're leading your run. First of all, we're hoping that runners get used to being on time and have become very aware of social distancing across the last year. But be ready for your leaders' talk and try and be early if you can, and on time for your talk. If there are late runners, you may need to summarise the pre-session talk, and of course if they arrive in dribs and drabs that could be difficult, so you may need to even hold the whole run back until until you've managed to speak to everybody. If there are more than 6 runners, you'll need to separate the groups. You'll need to separate them into groups where you may well have the faster runners in the first group and the slower runners in the back group, so they don't catch each other up. You'll also need to nominate a front runner and a back runner for each of those groups, and you'll need their phone numbers just to make sure you can give them a quick ring. Ask your back marker to give you a quick ring when they've finished, so that you know that everybody's made it back in. They'll have your mobile number as well, of course. And it would be useful to invite everybody to have a little warm down and stretch at the end of the session too, just by way of good practice and injury prevention. Also remember that if you're at all worried, it is well within your rights to cancel a run. So obviously that's not the reason for being a run leader, but it is your responsibility, or the responsibility is with you, and you're well within your rights to cancel a run if you're at all concerned. And finally, the other consideration is enjoy your own run. This is something that it's easy to forget when you're starting out as a run leader, but actually it is all about enjoying runs and the fun that comes with being able to run in a group. So after the run, make sure that you give your back marker a ring so that you can say that everyone has got home safe. If there are any problems, we can ring individual runners and make sure that they're okay and find out what happened to them and why they didn't contact us if they've decided to disappear off quicker than we were expecting. If there have been any accidents, or even near accidents, so if something almost happened, please let us know. We need to submit accident forms so that we can prevent any unnecessary accidents and things happening. Track and trace. This is the main reason for running the register, is that we really need to know the names of all the runners at the session, so that if there was ever any issue, we could give it to the track and trace team, the NHS team, who would be able to help respond to any COVID outbreaks. Also after the run, make sure that everybody stays distant. So sometimes, I've done this myself before, when you've done a really good run and you feel quite tired, you can sort of hang off each other. So try and make sure that everyone observes their social distancing as much as possible. Finally, just a few more answers to different questions you might have. What happens if you can't make the run? Then quite simply, just give us a ring as early as you can, and we will organise something either in the short term, and hopefully we'll have enough of you guys as run leaders anyway to be able to do that, or we'll be able to cancel the run and let everybody know before they arrive. If you're at all concerned about anything, please do let us know. That's me as a committee member, or anyone else on the committee will be able to help you with that too. If you want to learn more about being a run leader, there are also courses that the club is more than happy to pay for you to go on. So that's with England Athletics. Some of them are even run in Stratfield Break, and I believe the next one is in July on the 11th. So do look out and consider doing those courses as well. And finally, thank you so much for your time. As I said at the start, it really does come down to you and the volunteers that we have at the club that make this whole process happen. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the process of being a run leader.